Today I have Wally Green. He is a world-renowned table tennis pro who has used his gifts to touch people all over the world. His story is absolutely amazing. So welcome to the show, none other than Wally Green.
Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Oh man, I'm so honored to have you on today, man. I read your story and I was like, I got to get this guy on my podcast. Man, I really appreciate you, and I really appreciate you taking time out to talk with us today.
Definitely. Anytime, man. Anytime.
All right. So let's jump right into it. Tell us about your life growing up in the projects of Brooklyn and some of the challenges and obstacles you faced.
Yeah, so I grew up in the projects, in Marlboro Projects, which in Brooklyn, between Coney Island and Bensonhurst. I grew up with a very narcissistic, abusive stepfather who used to beat up my mom, like literally every day, and used to systematically not only like physically abuse me, but also the mental part, which was worse. So he systematically tried to make me feel and my mom feel that we could never amount to anything in life. So every single day, my stepfather would tell me, you'll never be successful, you'll be dead, you'll be in jail, you're useless, you're worthless, why are you here, why are you in this world? And he did this because my stepfather was actually illiterate, but he was able to get by because he was a master carpenter, right? So he had a skill that he was extremely good at, and that's how he got by. But like I said before, he was the kind of person that believed he's the king of the castle, and he wanted to make you understand that he was the king of the castle. So I grew up with just a lot of hate for him, and sometimes hate for my mom as well. And at an early age, I started living the gang life in an early age because that was where I found some kind of form of family, right? Because what I had, I knew was not a family. So I found it somewhere else. And I started in the gang at an early age. By 12, that was just a really crazy life.
Let's talk about this. Let's talk about table tennis. So how in the world, coming up the way you came up from the projects of Brooklyn, how did you get interested in table tennis?
Oh, man. So that's really strange because I actually hated the sport. So they had this sport in my high school, and I played football, basketball, volleyball. I played every sport I could play. And the reason why I played sports, because sports was the balance in my life. So I had the gang life, and then I needed another balance. And that balance was the balance that kept me numb, because, you practice in the morning, you go to school all day, and you practice after school. By the time I get home, I'm tired. Now I'm numb to the craziness that's going on. So I feel like it's not really affecting me as much because I'm not mentally invested in it. So I was like a super athlete. I played every sport. So when we were playing football, we were coming through the lunchroom because in order to go to the football field, we go through the lunchroom and then we come out the doors on that side to go directly to the field. And I saw some kids playing ping pong. And I was like, what kind of sport is this? Like, this sport it's so weird. And I used to make fun of the kids. I used to say, look at these kids playing a sport with short shorts and a stick, right? Because they all had these super shorts on. And so I hated this sport. But, life is crazy. You never know where it brings you. And one day I was shooting pool. I started to get into pool. And I got upset, slammed my pool stick on the table. The pool stick shattered. And I was really angry. And I was the kind of person that I took everything that happened to me, I had to take out on other people, right? Because that was the life that I was living. That was where I grew up. And so I saw some kids playing ping pong. And what better people to take it out on, right? A sport that I hated. So I went up to the kids and I said, hey, I want to get a hit. And the kid said, do you play this? I said, I don't play this, man. Just give me the paddle. And my goal was not to play ping pong. It was actually him to hit the ball to me to smash him in the face with the ball, right? And that would have let my anger out. And when I went to go smash the ball at him, the angle of my racket was in the wrong angle, well, in the correct angle for ping pong, and it went on the table. And the kid was like, oh my God, you play this? And I was like, I tell you I don't play this. He's like, there's a ping pong club. You got to go check it out. And I said, there's no way there's a ping pong club where people get together and play. It's like, there's no way. And like I said, sports was a big part of my life. And, that athlete was like, hey, maybe there is a ping pong place. Right. So I wind up going down to go check out this ping pong place. And when I got there, I saw people playing. It was like half pool hall, half ping pong. And I saw people playing, and it was unbelievable. Like they were standing back from the table, boom, boom, making these crazy shots, making noise, yelling and screaming. And I was like, wow. And more importantly, the people that I saw playing looked like me. And that was like, wait a minute. Black people don't play this. Like, what's going on here? Like, everyone who was playing at that time was black. And I was just like shocked. Like, wait a minute, what? We play this? And that's what got me interested. That was the first interest that caught my attention. Is I saw people that looked like me who were actually playing.
Now, let's talk about this. How did you feel? Because I know it's a long story behind this. I got to be respectful of your time. But how did you feel when you had the opportunity to go and play ping pong, table tennis in a competition and in other countries? How did that make you feel growing up from where you came from?
To pinch myself a couple of times. Like, is this real? Man, it had all kinds of emotions. Like, it had all kinds of emotions, right? Because I was able to play because I originally had went to Germany. So someone wanted to save my life. They paid for me to go to Germany to learn ping pong. And that's how I got to actually really learn. And even during that time, it was tough because even though I went to Germany, didn't mean that that violent, aggressive kid just changed overnight, right? So I had to get adjusted. And it took a little while. There's a saying, it's called killing you with kindness. I got killed with a whole lot of kindness. And eventually I figured out that, not everyone's out to get you. There are people who genuinely like you, not because you can pick up your gun for them, but because they like you just because you're you. So once I was able to figure that out, that was the first mindset change, right? And then I was like, okay, all right, I can make friends with other people that's outside. But when I first started to like really play around the world, I mean, that whole thing was just crazy, right? Because the way I got to play around the world was I made a video game with a very famous video game company called Rockstar Games. Rockstar Games scouted me at a tournament. So at this tournament, I'm playing this Chinese kid who was visiting. And as we were playing, the Chinese kid would make a point and he would go, yeah, and make these crazy noises. And then I was getting tight because I was like, I know what he was saying. So I started bringing the ghetto to the sport, and I started talking trash. And Rockstar Games happened to be there. And when Rockstar Games saw this going on, they got interested, and they came up to me and they said, hey, do you know Rockstar Games? I'm like, yes, of course I know Rockstar Games. Grand Theft Auto, of course. And they're like, well, we're going to make the world's first ping pong game. Are you interested? And I was like, 100%. Because I was thinking about, playing pro later on. And if I work with a big company like this, I could get sponsored. And that's what happened. I made this video game with them. It won all kinds of awards. And then I asked them to sponsor me. And they did. And they paid for me to play all over the world. And as I was traveling all over the world, it was really interesting because this is a kid who came from the projects with actually nothing, like zero. Like, I mean, in reality, I kind of had no business being there. What am I doing in China and Japan and Korea and Germany and all these countries, like playing pro level at the highest level of any sport, right? Most people don't even make it out. And so sometimes it didn't even feel real. Like sometimes I had to like sit back and be like, wait, is this really happening? Like, is this for real? Like, I'm really traveling. I never left Brooklyn, right? I never left Brooklyn. I played, how many sports I played? I played every sport in school, every single sport. I never left Brooklyn. Now I'm all over the world. So it was definitely very eye-opening. It was, like I said, I always had to sit back and think and be like, man, is this really real? Am I really like all over the world now? So yeah, it's crazy. And it always seemed crazy throughout the whole time.
Man, I'll tell you what, I can't even imagine that. I can't imagine that. It had to be crazy, like being in North Korea. I heard your story about that. Like, man, it was crazy, right?
Yeah.
So let me ask you this, Wally. So how did playing ping pong open up doors for you? Because I read that you have been on all these international magazines, top magazines. You've been on TV shows, all of the stuff on the Today Show, the early show, Steve Harvey Show. I mean, you've been on all of the stuff. How did that open doors for you?
Man, like through the journey of being a pro athlete in a sport where I didn't belong, because if you looked at me and you took every ping pong player in the world, like if you took me and you took the world of ping pong pros and you put me somewhere in the middle of these millions of hundreds of thousands of people, you could easily say, hey, wait a minute, that guy doesn't belong there. Like you could point me out and say, that guy doesn't belong there, right? So like I was saying, you could easily just point me out. And so through the journey, I had to figure out what I wanted to do in this sport. When I first came into the sport, I would say, I'm going to be the best in the world. I'm going to be number one, right? And that was an unlikely goal, right? Sometimes we get way ahead of ourselves and we make these goals that actually don't make sense. And that actually didn't make sense because I started very late, started at 17 years old. I'm fresh on the pro circuit. Everybody's better than me. But I was thinking like, I'm going to be the best, right? And because I didn't make goals that actually made sense, I was actually failing all the time. Like I was getting beat so badly. I would travel from America to China to Germany, all these countries, and I would lose in the first day of my competition badly. And there was a point where I had to figure out, what am I going to do? Like, what's my part in this sport as a pro? Because at some point, there has to be some kind of realization that, no, you're not going to be number one, right? And sometimes we have to really understand, like, what's real. I started at 17 years old. There's people started at 3. They're playing how many hours a day? And so things started happening. And it started happening because I just started being me. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to conform to what this ping pong culture is about. I'm just going to bring the ghetto hood into the sport. I'm going to bring the flair. I'm going to bring the fashion. I'm just going to bring the craziness. And no one was doing this. And then once I started doing that, then I started noticing crazy, weird things. Like normally in a pro competition, there's a loser and there's a winner. Who gets to interview? The winner. Of course the winner gets to interview. But I started noticing that I would lose and I would get to interview. And I thought that was weird. Like, why am I getting the interview? And the interview would be, where you're from. We heard you're from New York. We heard you grew up this way. How did you ever get to play ping pong? Like some serious interviews. And it would happen all the time. And then I started thinking like, you know what? Maybe I don't need to be the best in the world. I just need to be myself. And I found my niche just by being myself, right? Just being this outgoing, crazy dude from the projects who's playing a sport that he doesn't even belong in, right? And just showing up. And everything would just happen like from that. Like the interviews started coming. I'll tell you a funny story. I would play in China. This is crazy. I would play in China. And the way the formats go for these Pro Tour tournaments, first there's a group, right? So in the group, you can have 4 people. Everyone's going to play each other. So you'll get 3 matches. The one with the best record goes to the first round, right? Now, normally in the group, you don't get a TV table, right? Because there are TV tables. And TV tables are going to be the live tables that whatever country you're in or wherever you're at in the world, you're going to see this match live, right? And normally in the group, you don't get a TV table. It's very rare a player gets a TV table in the group, right? So I would go to China and then I would notice that in the group, right, in the qualification, I'm on a TV table. I was like, this is crazy. And then my next match will be on a TV table again, which is impossible. And so one day I got really pissed off, right, because I actually did not want to be on a TV table. You know, I was the worst pro. I was the worst pro in the world. Like, I was the worst pro in the world. Why you want to put me on the TV table? It's crazy. So everyone in the world can see me get beat. So I didn't want to be on the TV table. So I went to the Chinese Association before a match I was going to play. I says, hey, listen, you guys keep putting me on the TV table. Can you take me off this table, please, and put me just like on a normal table? I don't need to be on TV. Like, I want it, right? And the organizer said, Wally, no, you have to be on TV because you are good for TV. He said it just like that. And when he said it, I understood. It clicked. It clicked immediately. It clicked. I was like, wait a minute. First of all, I'm black, right? There's not many black players in the world that play the sport. There are no black players like me from my background at all that play the sport, right? I got the crazy hair with the designs in it. I'm always wearing the chain with the diamond, like bringing some fashion to it. And I realized, I said, wait a minute, you know what? I bring the cool into the sport. I bring the hip. I bring the fashion. I bring that little kind of ghetto thuggish kind of aura that they don't have in this sport, right? And that's why they wanted me on TV, because I was entertaining. And then once I figured that out, I was like, wait a minute, hold on. I don't need to be number one in the world, right? There are players in every sport or most sports that I like, not because they're the best, because when I see them, I know that I'm going to leave there saying, what the hell just happened? So, for example, let's take tennis. There's a guy that I really like a lot. His name is Gael Monfils. He's from France. He will never be number one in his life, but he is incredible. And the stuff that he does is just wow stuff. So I had that wow factor, right? And because of that, that's how I started getting interviews, because people couldn't believe. And then, not to mention, I started getting better. I was able to compete. I was able to keep up. I couldn't win, but I was able to keep up and compete. And that's all I had to do was keep up, compete, play as hard as I can, make as much noise on the table, and just be myself and be out there. And then things started coming. It just snowballed. I was like, yo, Wally Green. And listen, every player respected me. And I'm talking about like the top players in the world. I'm talking about like the LeBron James, the Jordans. Like those people, when they saw me come in, they would say hi to me all the time, because they knew I wasn't their level, but I worked really hard. When I would lose my match, right? Picture this: you travel from America, you go to China, 16, 18 hours flight, right? You arrive. The next day is your competition, right? You play 2 matches, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. Guess what? Competition's over. So you flew 18 hours from America to China. You played only 2 matches. Competition's over. You still got 5 days there. I used to just find everyone to practice with. I would go say, practice, I want to practice. And I would spend my whole time in the practice hall, just hitting. And everyone saw that. And they saw that I worked hard, and they respected it. And all the top players in the world, I'm talking about the Michael Jordan, LeBron James, when they see me, they say, what's up? Say hello. Even the Chinese, best in the world, when I used to walk into the hall, they used to come, oh, Wally. And they would laugh and say hello, right? Because I didn't have to be the best in the world. I didn't have to be their level. I had something that they didn't have. And it was that flair, it was that swag that nobody had. So they had the skill, they had the rankings, but I had the swag and had there's a word I'm looking for I can't think of, but anyway, that swagger. I want to use swagger, and they loved it, and because it brought something different to the sport, and because of that, that's how I started getting all these interviews, and the media just went crazy with it. Then once people heard my story of where I actually came from and how I even got to playing pro. I mean, technically, I shouldn't be traveling around the world, right? I mean, technically, I should be dead or in jail. I mean, because that's where I was going, and I was able to escape that and be able to travel around the world to play. And that's why I started getting all the media and things like that, just overcoming and staying strong and persevering. And that's why I was able to do all the media stuff.
Man, that's truly amazing. I always say being you is your power when it's all said and done. Being you is your power. Now, let me ask you another question. How do you feel about the youth today, and what drives you to reach out to them?
Oh, man. So I think the youth today, they need people who are willing to reach out to them and guide them. I talk about this a lot, especially in the inner city. Like the youth, they're hurting. They're really hurting. And people aren't really listening to them. They're hearing, but they're not listening to them. They're really not listening to them. I did a world keynote speech, actually. And this global speech. They had some younger kids on. And one of the questions we asked them is, what is the biggest struggle being your age? And everyone said that people listen to us, but they're not really hearing us. I just think that people like me who's been through a struggle, we need to help these kids out. A lot of times people come from a really dark background and they get better. And then they just go on with their lives. And that's it. I think that's wrong. I think that we need to help these kids, right? Because these kids, if they're going to listen to anybody, they're going to listen to people like me who's actually been through the struggle. My mom sent me to a psychiatrist or whatever, social psychologist, whatever you want to call it, when I was really out there gangbanging hard. And she sent me there, I don't know why, but she thought it was going to help. And I remember sitting down with this guy and I asked him, I said, at the time, I think I was probably maybe 14. And I asked the guy, says, hey, have you ever had a gun put to your head before? And the guy said, oh, no, he's never been in that situation. I said, have you even seen a gun? Have you ever touched a gun? And the guy says, no, never been in that situation. And then I said, why the hell am I here with you? Like, what could you possibly have to tell me that I want to listen to? Right? And that goes for the kids of today as well. So many times they're seeing these specialists and these therapists who haven't been through anything. I call them textbook therapists. Everything they learned was from a textbook. But if you didn't live that life, if you weren't in the projects, there's no way you can begin to understand it unless you go there and live there. So I think that people like me who's really been through it really need to go back and help these kids. And there's so many ways to help them. You don't have to be actually there. You can use social media by the messages you post, by the things you say, by doing podcasts like right now. Keep telling your story. The more you tell your story, people will hear your story. And they will be like, oh, man, you know what? That guy went through hell in his life. I'm going through the same thing. You know what? Let me listen to him. So I think that right there is definitely one of the most important things, like for the youth. And I'm all about helping the kids always.
Outstanding. Yeah, that's very important. That's one of my passions in life is helping the youth. Let me ask you this. Tell us a little bit about the spin company.
Oh, yeah. So we used to have a party. So before the party, the beginning story is really funny. And it's so funny because all through my life, it was about being at the right place at the right time. For some reason, I've always been at the right place at the right time, which is crazy because everything in my life happened because I was at the right place at the right time. And this was another one. I was at a tournament playing someone, and the coach of the kid was being really obnoxious to me, making all these noises. And I got really upset, and I told the coach, I said, listen, if you don't shut up, I'm going to punch you in the face for 10 minutes. And then 3 guys were standing by the side, and they started laughing. They thought it was really funny. The 3 guys came up to me and says, hey, we're documentary filmmakers, and we love ping pong. We're not good, but we have a ping pong table in our apartment. Would you come and play with us? And I was like, hell yeah, let's go. So I would go to these guys' apartment, this loft apartment, play ping pong with them. I wind up living in this apartment, right? Now I'm living in this apartment. We started a ping pong party. People come over and just play ping pong and have fun, just enjoy life. The party got really big. Then we decided, you know what? Let's make this party official, right? Let's call it Naked Ping Pong, because naked was a state of mind, meaning live life free, no worries, just enjoy life. Life is too short for the BS. Let's just have fun. In the process, we met Susan Sarandon, and every great thing comes to an end and a new beginning. So we had to get out the apartment. The owner wanted to sell it. Then we were like, you know what? Let's take this business. Let's take this idea to another level. Let's make it a business. And we came up with a concept, and we came up with a business plan. We gave it to Susan Sarandon, and she helped us get the investors. And that's how we started our first club in Manhattan, 23rd Street. And now we have 9. So it's been pretty crazy. Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing, man. That's crazy.
Crazy. It's about having fun. We took a sport that's very serious, that's not fun. If you ever been to like a real ping pong club, like not my club, because my club is a party spot, right? We got alcohol, we got food, we got DJs coming. But if you ever been to a real ping pong place, it's not fun. If you took your date there, it'll probably be the last date you had with that girl. It's not fun. It's very serious. No one's playing around. People are angry if you're in their way. So what we wanted to do, we wanted to remove all of that. And we wanted to take the sport, make it fun for everyone. And that's how we came up with the concept.
Okay. So tell me this, Wally. I read something about you trying to get your own show.
Yeah.
So what's the goal with that?
Yeah, so my ultimate goal is to have the Wally Green show. And the reason why I came up with that is, like I said, I've been on a couple of talk shows. And then what inspired me the most was I think it was during the pandemic or before, there was an artist. Well, he was I don't know what he was, a DJ or a producer or something. And he got his own show on prime time. Like, I couldn't believe it. And then his background story was my story. Like, it was my story. And I'm like, yo, I know this dude. He didn't go through all that stuff. Then, so they gave him a primetime channel, prime time, but it was bad. And the reason why it was bad was because I don't know, not everyone is for TV, right? Not everyone is made for TV. And for me, he wasn't made for TV. And I knew the show wasn't going to last because when I watched him, I felt like he wasn't natural. I felt like he was just thinking too much, right? And then I thought, man, you know what? If this guy got his show, prime time, using the same background story as mine, why can't I have my own talk show, right? And my talk show, what I want to do is I want to interview people who are doing real stuff, the people that we never hear about. Think about it. If you didn't meet me, if you never met me, you wouldn't know my story. You wouldn't know that I went to North Korea to do a diplomacy for world peace. That's not like saying like, hey, I got a job at Microsoft. No, going to the most dangerous country in the world and doing diplomacy for world peace, that's big, that's huge. But you wouldn't know about it if you didn't meet me or if you didn't hear about me, right? So on my talk show, I want to have people on that are doing huge things that we don't even hear about. Stephen Curry has a podcast, right? And it's under his media company called Unanimous. And they chose about 4 or 5 people around the world to be in it. I'm one of them. The name of this series is The Greatest Sports Stories Never Told. Never told or untold. Untold or never told. I can't remember exactly. But it just goes to show, like, these are the kind of people that I need to have on my talk show so that everyone can see, like, yeah, there are people doing big things. They may not be in your media or on your social media or in front of your eyes all the time, but behind the scenes, people are doing huge things. So that's the kind of talk show I want to have.
I really like that. But finally, Wally, what would you say to someone that grew up with less and they are struggling with finding their purpose in life?
Yeah, oh man. So the finding your purpose thing is really difficult because we don't know when we're going to find our purpose, right? Sometimes it comes to you early in life. Sometimes you may think that's your purpose and you find out it's not. And then sometimes it may come later. But I think more importantly, be authentic. Like, be an authentic individual. Be passionate, be authentic, be you. Be truthfully you, and believe in yourself. I think if you do those things and you live those things, authenticity, believing in yourself 100%, whatever you have in your mind, you believe it, I think it will make it a lot easier to find what your purpose was. Because I didn't really find my purpose until pandemic. I didn't really find it until the pandemic. But because I live authentically every day, I'm real every day, I'm me every day. No matter what platform I am, no matter what TV show I'm on, no matter what interview I'm doing, whatever you see today, you're going to see tomorrow, you're going to see the next day, you're going to see the next day. It doesn't change. It never changes. And I think that's how I was able to find what my purpose was, right? Because I really didn't know. I had no idea until the pandemic. And then I was like, yes, this is my purpose. This is what I'm here to do. This is why I went through such a hell of a life for. So, yeah.
There you have it, man. Wally, I really appreciate you stopping by to talk with us today. I've been waiting on this for the last couple of weeks, man. I've been so excited. I said, man, I can't wait to talk to Wally. Well, I appreciate you, Wally.
Appreciate you as well, man. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. Thanks for tuning in to Real Talk with Reginald D. If you enjoyed the show, please share with anyone you think that needs to go on this journey with us on making you a better you. See you next time.